It was a bright Saturday afternoon at Rusty Fork Diner, a roadside restaurant sitting just outside the small desert town of Willow Creek. The sun blazed through the wide glass windows, reflecting off chrome motorcycles parked outside. Inside, the air smelled of coffee, fries, and gasoline, a mix that meant home for most bikers who came through those doors. Among them was Mara Ellison, a 27-year-old waitress with tired eyes but a gentle smile that never seemed to fade, no matter how rough the day got. She wore her faded pink uniform, her name tag slightly crooked, and her dark hair tied in a messy bun. Every movement she made was quick but careful, balancing trays, pouring coffee, and giving every customer that little extra kindness she believed the world desperately needed. But not everyone came for kindness that day. A group of rich teenagers had pulled up in a line of shiny sports cars that glittered under the noon sun. Foreign models, loud engines, tinted windows. They laughed too loud as they walked in, the kind of laughter that didn't care who it disturbed. At their center was Preston Hale, an 18-year-old whose father owned half the businesses in town. He wore designer clothes, a silver watch that cost more than most people's yearly rent, and a smirk that screamed entitlement. When he walked in, even the chatter dimmed a little. Not because people respected him, but because they knew better than to get in his way. Mara, ever polite, greeted them with the same warmth she showed everyone. "Good afternoon, what can I get you folks today?" she asked with a friendly tone, clutching her order pad. Preston looked her up and down, scoffing. "I'll have a steak, medium rare, and make sure it's real steak, not whatever cheap garbage you people usually serve." His friends laughed, loud and cruel. Mara just nodded, writing it down, swallowing the sting in her throat. "Of course, sir," she said softly, walking away before her expression could betray her. Across the diner, a group of 50 bikers sat scattered around. Broad men in leather jackets with a flaming skull emblem that read Hell's Angels West Chapter. They were loud, joking, drinking coffee, but respectful to Mara. They called her ma'am, tipped her well, and always left the booth cleaner than they found it. Ryder, their leader, a grizzled man in his 40s with tattoos crawling up his arms and a calm, watchful gaze, noticed the shift in tone the moment the teens walked in. His fork paused mid-air. His men fell quiet one by one. They didn't like the look in that boy's eyes. As the teens' meal went on, the laughter only got worse. They made fun of the old jukebox, of the cook's accent, of the waitress's uniform. One even recorded Mara on his phone as she tried to serve them politely. "Smile for the camera, sweetheart," he taunted, and they all snickered when she forced an uncomfortable smile. When Mara brought the food, Preston wrinkled his nose. "This is what you call medium rare? Looks like shoe leather." He pushed the plate back so hard that gravy splashed on her apron. "Can't you do anything right?" Mara's voice trembled as she said, "I can replace it for you, sir, right away." But Preston wasn't finished humiliating her. "No, I don't want another. I want you to see how useless you are." Then, in front of everyone, he picked up his glass of water, then spat directly at her face. The diner went dead silent. Mara froze, eyes wide, a single tear cutting through the line of spit that dripped down her cheek. For a heartbeat, she didn't move. The sound of a chair scraping the floor broke the silence. Ryder stood up slowly, his hands curling into fists, his heavy boots echoing on the tile as he walked forward. Every Hell's Angel followed, one after another, until 50 men in black leather surrounded the group of teens like a wall of thunder. Before we go further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and standing up for what's right, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. It helps us share more true, powerful stories that remind the world goodness still exists. Preston tried to act tough, though his voice cracked. Hey, this isn't your business," he stammered, backing up slightly. Ryder's calm, gravelly voice cut through the silence. "Son, when you spit on a woman who's just trying to make a living, it becomes everybody's business." His eyes, cold and steady, bore into Preston's, "especially ours." The teens shifted uneasily. The waitress stood frozen, still shaking, trying to hold back sobs. Ryder turned to her and gently took a napkin from the counter, handing it to her. "Go clean up, sweetheart. We'll handle this." But Mara shook her head. "Please don't. It's okay. They're just kids." Her voice was soft, trembling, yet filled with a grace that silenced even the bikers. Ryder looked at her in disbelief. "You're still protecting them after what they did?" he asked quietly. She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I don't want anyone hurt because of me." The room stayed still. Ryder sighed, stepped back and said to his men, "You heard the lady, no one touches them." Then he turned to the teens. "But you're going to make this right." Under the eyes of every biker, Preston's arrogance began to crumble. I didn't mean to," Ryder interrupted. "You meant to humiliate her. So now, you're going to do the opposite. You're going to apologize." Preston's pride screamed no, but the 50 pairs of unblinking eyes around him said otherwise. Trembling, he turned to Mara, who stood by the counter, wiping her face. "I'm sorry," he muttered. "Louder," Ryder demanded. "I'm sorry." Preston's voice broke. His friends stood silent, ashamed. "I shouldn't have done that." Mara looked at him, and for a moment her expression softened. "Apology accepted," she whispered. Then she turned and went to the back room. The bikers watched her go, then slowly sat back down. But the silence lingered. Heavy, uncomfortable, unforgettable. The teens quickly paid their bill, double what it should have been, and rushed out the door, their laughter gone. Outside, Ryder followed them to the parking lot. "Listen, kid," he said to Preston, "money doesn't make you better than people. It only shows what you do when no one's watching. But today you learned something. You never know who might be watching." Preston didn't reply. He just nodded, red-faced, before driving off in silence. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low over the desert, Ryder walked back inside the diner. Mara was sitting at the counter, sipping coffee, her hands still shaking slightly. He sat beside her, quiet for a moment. "You handled that with more strength than most people I've ever met," he said. Mara smiled weakly. "I just didn't want things to get worse. People make mistakes. Maybe he'll remember this someday." Ryder studied her face for a long moment. "You've got a heart of gold. But remember, kindness doesn't mean weakness." That night, when the bikers left, they didn't just leave a tip. They left a stack of bills totaling over $5,000 and a small note written in Ryder's rough handwriting, "For the woman who reminds us all what grace looks like." When Mara found it, her knees nearly gave out. She pressed the note to her chest, tears streaming freely now, not from pain but from gratitude. Word spread fast around town. The next day, people started showing up at the diner, leaving small gifts and thank you notes. Someone even started a local campaign called Respect the Workers, inspired by the story of the waitress and the bikers. Within a week, the story hit the local news, and eventually national outlets picked it up. But what no one saw was the quiet change it sparked in Preston Hale. A few days later, he returned, alone. No friends, no laughter, no arrogance. He walked in quietly while Mara was serving customers. When she saw him, the room tensed, but he raised his hands. "I just came to talk," he said. Softly. He waited until the rush was over, then approached her at the counter. "I wanted to thank you," he said. "Not just for forgiving me, but for teaching me something. I've been angry for a long time, at my dad, at myself, but what I did was wrong. I'm sorry. Truly." Mara nodded, her eyes gentle. "We all lose our way sometimes. What matters is that we find it again." From that day on, Preston started showing up once a week, not to boast, but to help. He volunteered at the diner, cleaning tables, serving coffee, learning humility the hard way. Over time, the Hells Angels noticed. And so did Ryder. A month later, when the bikers returned for another ride through town, Preston was behind the counter, wearing an apron and a smile that was real this time. When Ryder walked in, their eyes met, and Preston walked over. "Hey," he said, extending a hand, "I remember what you said, and I'm trying to be better." Ryder looked at the young man, then shook his hand firmly. "Good, keep trying." Outside, the engines roared to life again, echoing through the valley. Mara stood by the window watching them ride off, the sunlight glinting off the chrome, her heart full. She didn't just survive humiliation that day, she changed hearts, and that, she realized, was the real power of kindness. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Every story we share reminds the world that compassion is stronger than cruelty. And before you go, comment kindness always wins if you believe that even the smallest act of grace can change a life forever.